Okay, we're on Masechet Challah, Perek Aleph, Mishnah Chet, and we'll dedicate the learning, as we often do, to the memory of my father, Rav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. Okay, the Mishnah is going to talk about Isat HaKlavim, which sounds like dog dough, which is basically what it is. What is Isat HaKlavim? Says the Bartanura. It's Naseit Mikemach, Umorsan Harbe Mu'uraba. Morsan is a word in the Mishnah that is, let's see if I can find it, Morsan. We look at the Jastro. Bruised grain, coarse bran. Okay, so basically, it's dough baked with a ton of bran, which we would call today whole wheat dough. Very interesting question. Okay, so now I was interested in this. I was looking at it in Wikipedia. Okay, so what's bran? Bran is the outer part. When you grind the dough, when you grind the wheat, okay, you've got the endosperm, which is white, the germ, which is the inside, okay, and then you also have the bran. The bran is outside. Now the bran, I always thought, interestingly enough, that the dough that was used in ancient times was whole wheat dough, because how would they have it finely? But it seems that it's not the case, because they would take the bran on the outside, I think for a very good reason. Now we eat the bran because it's useful. The problem is, it's separated, okay? The high oil content of bran makes it subject to rancidification, i.e. rotting. One of the reasons that it's often separated from the grain before storage or further processing. Okay, so I always thought that, it's like whole wheat flour should be cheaper. But it could be whole wheat flour should be more expensive because when you leave the bran in, you have to refrigerate it, or you can't leave it dry. You have to store it differently because otherwise it goes bad. And the white stuff is the stuff that never goes bad. You could leave it forever. So it seems very clear, at least in the Mishnah's time, that they would separate the white from the bran. And obviously, it's all a question of how much you're going to separate and how heavily you're going to sift it. The fine white flour is incredibly sifted. If you want to, you can look on YouTube. I did for this. There's a How's It Made on flour. It's sifted very, very finely. 1 second. I lost my... Here we go. Okay. But you could get a sense that if they had a lot of morsan, if they left too much bran, that was called Isat HaKlavim. It was called dog dough. So the Isat HaKlavim, it was called dog dough because usually it was made to feed the dogs. They would take the bran, and that was what they would feed the dogs. But there were times, bisman she'haro'im ochlim mimeno. So there were times that the ro'im would eat it, and times that the shepherds would eat it, and times that they wouldn't. Okay, when? So the Mishnah says, the Bartanura says, bisman she'haro'im ochlim mimeno, when the shepherds would eat it, shelo nit'areh ba morsan kol kach. So it would depend on the bran content. If there was too much bran in it, then the shepherds wouldn't eat it. If there was not a lot of bran in it, then the shepherds would eat the dough. It seems clear that they would not eat our whole wheat dough under our whole wheat bread under any circumstances. But they would eat if it was like mixed whole wheat. And then they would have the white. They like the white. It's very hard to know. It's impossible to know, but it's very fascinating. It's called Isat HaKlavim. It's called dog dough. So if there's too much of a bran content, then they wouldn't eat it. If there's not enough bran content, then they would eat it. And obviously for our halacha, I'm 3 minutes in, so I'll try to go a little faster. But for our Mishnah, okay, when the ro'im would eat it, then it's called bread. So then it has all the ramifications of bread. So if it's bisman she'ro'im ochlim mimena, when the shepherds would eat it, chayavet bechallah, it's chayav and challah, it's real bread. Okay, let's see. Chayavet chayzia lo ro'im lechem karina, but it's called lechem and it's chayav and challah. But then there's a lot of other halachot that go along with it. Ume'arvimba makes you make an eruv with it. So there's 2 types of eruv. We're going to learn this extensively in Hilchot Eruvin. There's an eruv that's called eruv tchumin. And we're going to see this in Shabbat also. Eruv tchumin means when Shabbat comes, I can only stay within 2,000 amot of the city which I'm in. But if I want to go 4,000 amot, I can recalculate my center by placing food 2,000 amot from the edge of Yad Binyamin, for example. So if I wanted to walk from Yad Binyamin to Yesodot, if they're not more than 4,000 amot away, I can put food 2,000 amot between Yad Binyamin and Yesodot, and then I'm allowed to walk there. That's called an eruv tchumin. Then there's also called eruv chatzerot. If I have a chatzer, let's see what a chatzer is. Okay, and we're going to do the next word. Umishtatfin ba. Shitufei mevo. A shituf, from the word lishtatef, is a shitufei mevoot. Let's look at the Bartanura. Okay, Arvin Ba'i says eruv chatzerot, but the Katahati says it's also eruv tchumin. Okay, Umishtatfin ba. Shitufei mevoot. I'm going to show you a picture that I took. Okay, here's a picture that I took from, this is the shas that I used for Daf Yomi. And they have in the Eruv, they have unbelievable pictures. Okay? So this is their picture of a mavoi with a lechi. So they built their neighborhoods, this is a street called the Reshut HaRabim. Off the street, there was sort of like an alleyway. Okay? And that alleyway led to private courtyards that were communal houses. So each private courtyard, you see, it's a little hard to see, but each private courtyard had an entranceway. So an Eruv that we consider now is called an Eruv Chatzerot. Eruv Chatzerot is so that the apartments or the houses in each private courtyard can share between the Chatzerot. But if you wanted to do what they wanted to, what if I didn't want to carry only from one house to another in a Chatzer, but I wanted to carry from one house to another in the Mavoi, okay, in the Mavoi itself, throughout the whole alleyway. You could do what's called a shituf mevo'ot. You could do a partnership. Shituf means ishtatfut, a partnership in the mevo'ot. And that would allow you to carry from anywhere in the mavoi to anywhere in the mavoi, even to the alleyway itself on Shabbat. Okay, the way you do a shituf is, and the same way you do an eruv, and this is a very common misconception. Eruv is not the wire or the string you put around it. We just say the eruv is up. That doesn't do anything. All that eruv does, all that wire does, or the fence or whatever, is enough to make it a chatzer. The eruv is this fence, which makes the chatzer enclosed. What you have to do is then have a food, shitufei mevo'ot, have food that's connected or that's a partnership, and you say, okay, this food, this bread, it has to be lechem, Chazal said, this bread is a partnered, and I have now been mizdakeh, I say this bread is owned by the community, everyone in this mavoi. And then what you have to do is put a lechi, either a beam, a lechi, okay, that stands straight up at the entrance of the mavoi. Or the other option is, let's make this a little smaller, I can make sure we're recording. Or you can put a korah, a beam across the top of your mavoi. And then as long as you have your shitufei mavo'ot, as long as you have the bread that's shared by everyone, that's considered okay. That's what it means by umishatfin ba. We're going to get into this in greater detail, okay? But time is wasted. You have to make a bracha on it. You have to make a motzi. You obviously make a zimun. You take berkat hamazon. Then aseit b'yom tov, and you're allowed to make it on Yom Tov. Why make it on Yom Tov? Because it's human food. Aseit b'yom tov, okay? Because of the ro'im, you're allowed to bake bread for food for people, but you're not allowed to bake bread for dogs. Why can't you make bread for dogs? So we'll get to that in a second. But and if you make it, if it's whole wheat, it's bread, so you can eat it as masa pesach. But if the shepherds won't eat it because it has too much of a high fiber content, then all those halachot that we said before, the opposite is true. And not chayavet b'chala. It's not chayav and challah because it's not bread, it's dog food. Ve'en ma'arvin ba, you can't use it for your eruvim, eruv chaserot, eruv beitchumin. Ein mishtatfin ba, you can't use it for your shituf mevo'ot. Ve'en merachin aleh, you would make a motzi. It would be, I guess, mizonot. What bracha would you make? Right? I guess you would make mizonot. Ve'en mizamnin aleh, you can't make a zimun, it's not bread. Ve'en ha'na'aseit b'yom tov. Okay? And you can't make it on Yom Tov. Why? You can't make it on Yom Tov because it says, the Torah says in Shemot Yud Bet, Asher yeyachel l'chol nefesh. That which is, hu levado yeyaseh lachem. That was the ochel nefesh lachem. So the Gemara learns out, lachem and not for your dogs. You can't bake dog food on Yom Tov. Ve'en adam yotzei chavidecho v'ato b'Pesach. And you can't fulfill the mitzvah on Pesach. And you can't, it's not matzah, it's not bread. So you can't use it for challah. Benkach ubenkach, nonetheless, either way, whether it's high fiber or not, whether the roim will eat it or not, metamei tumat ochlim. It is tamei tumat ochlim because can be, even if the roim wouldn't eat it, if they had to, they would eat it. So therefore, it's considered ochel, and it's mitave. Therefore, mitama ad shetipaser melayachol akav. Unless a dog wouldn't eat it either, it's still considered food, and it has tumat ochel. So that's for the purposes of kachim, etc., etc. I'm way long, so I'll stop here. If you have any comments or questions, as always, you can email me at arspolter@gmail.com.